The champagne tower sparkled under the crystal chandeliers of the Grand Meridian Ballroom. 200 guests mingled around ice sculptures and passed trays of lobster canapés. My mother's 60th birthday party was everything she dreamed of, elegant, expensive, and designed to showcase our family's success. Everyone's success except mine, apparently. Olivia, darling. My Aunt Patricia descended on me with her usual air of concern. How lovely that you could make it. I know the drive from your little place must have been exhausting. It's fine, I said, sipping my champagne. Only 20 minutes. In that old car of yours? My cousin Jennifer joined the conversation, her diamond tennis bracelet catching the light. Honestly, Liv, you should let Uncle Richard help you lease something decent. The family image, you know. I smiled and said nothing. My 7-year-old Honda Civic was parked in the service entrance, per my instructions to the valet. No need to take up the guest parking. My sister Victoria made her entrance fashionably late, of course. She swept into the ballroom in a custom Valentino gown, her banker husband Marcus trailing behind. The crowd parted for her like she was royalty. There's my successful daughter. Mom's voice carried across the room as she embraced Victoria. Tell everyone about the promotion, darling. Victoria's laugh was like wind chimes, practiced and perfect. Senior Vice President of Acquisitions. The announcement goes public Monday, but family should know first. Her eyes found mine across the room. Some of us actually climbed the corporate ladder. The nearby guests chuckled politely. I took another sip of champagne. Dinner was a calculated seating arrangement. I found my place card at table 12, near the back, wedged between my uncle's accountant and a family friend I'd met once. Victoria sat at the head table with Mom, Dad, and Marcus. The speeches began during dessert. Dad stood first, his voice booming through the microphone. 60 years ago, the world was blessed with Margaret Hamilton. She gave me 2 beautiful daughters, built a home filled with love, and showed us all what grace looks like. Applause rippled through the room. Our eldest, Victoria, has made us so proud. Harvard MBA, rising through the ranks at Morrison Financial. She's everything a parent could hope for. He paused, his eyes scanning the room until they landed on me. And Olivia? Well, she's finding her way. We're patient. The table shifted uncomfortably. The accountant suddenly found his tiramisu fascinating. Victoria took the microphone next. Her speech was flawless. Funny, touching, perfectly timed. Then she went off script. You know what I'm most grateful for? Mom taught me the value of hard work, of building something real. Not just dabbling in hobbies and calling it a career. Her eyes locked on mine. At least I don't live in a studio apartment, wondering where rent will come from. The room erupted in polite laughter. Some guests looked away awkwardly. Others nodded in agreement. I stayed perfectly still, my expression neutral. Victoria, Mom's stage whispered, but she was smiling. Sorry. Victoria laughed, not sorry at all. I just think it's important to celebrate actual achievement. Mom, you raised a daughter who made something of herself. That deserves recognition. More applause. Marcus beamed beside her. My cousin Jennifer leaned over from the next table. Liv, honey, it's not too late. I know people at several firms. Entry-level positions, but everyone starts somewhere. I'm good, thanks, I said quietly. Are you, though? My Uncle Richard had materialized beside my chair. Sweetheart, we're family. If you're struggling financially, we can help. No shame in asking. I appreciate it, but I'm not struggling. That apartment, though. Aunt Patricia wrinkled her nose. In that neighborhood? Richard, didn't someone get mugged there last month? I'm fine, I repeated. Victoria's voice cut through the conversation. Oh, Liv's always fine. Perfectly content with mediocrity. It's actually kind of inspiring. Not everyone needs ambition, right? The laughter was louder this time. Less polite. I felt my phone buzz. A text from James, my director of operations. Asterisk, the Singapore deal closed. $47 million confirmed. Congratulations, boss. Asterisk. I slipped the phone back into my clutch and took another sip of champagne. The cake came out, a 6-tier masterpiece with Mom's name in gold leaf. As the photographer positioned the family for photos, Victoria made sure I was on the far end, partially cut off by Uncle Richard's shoulder. Perfect, the photographer called out. After the photos, Victoria cornered me near the bar. Marcus and Jennifer flanked her like backup dancers. So, Liv, how's the job hunt going? Victoria asked sweetly. I'm not job hunting. Right. Your little, what do you call it? Consulting thing? She made air quotes. Something like that. Marcus jumped in, emboldened by Scotch. You know, Vic's firm is always looking for administrative assistants. The pay's not amazing, but it's stable. Better than whatever you're doing now. I'll keep that in mind. You really should, Victoria pressed. You're 32, Liv. Time to get serious. Mom and Dad won't support you forever. They don't support me. She laughed. Oh please. Who do you think paid for this party? You certainly couldn't afford it. Actually, I could have paid for this party 17 times over with last quarter's returns alone. But I just smiled. That's when Thomas Morrison, the venue manager, approached our group. He was holding a leather portfolio and looking slightly stressed. Excuse me, ladies, he said politely. I'm looking for Ms. Carter? That's me, Victoria said automatically. Our mother's maiden name was Carter, and Victoria used it professionally sometimes. Thomas looked confused. I'm sorry, I'm looking for Olivia Carter? Every head in our circle turned toward me. That's me, I said calmly. Thomas's face flooded with relief. Miss Carter. Thank goodness. I apologize for interrupting, but we have an urgent matter regarding the renovation contracts. The structural engineers need your signature on the $2.3 million expansion plans before the permits expire tomorrow. Silence. Victoria's champagne glass paused halfway to her lips. The what? Jennifer breathed. Thomas continued, oblivious to the shock around him. The South Wing expansion? You approved the initial plans last month, but the city requires the primary owner's signature on the final engineering documents. I have them here if you have a moment. He opened the portfolio, revealing blueprints and official-looking documents with my name at the top. Primary owner? Marcus's voice cracked slightly. Thomas finally seemed to notice the tension. Yes, of course. Miss Carter owns the Grand Meridian. Has for, 6 years now? 7, I corrected quietly. But who's counting? Victoria's face had gone pale beneath her makeup. Own this venue? The Grand Meridian is the flagship property of the Carter Hospitality Group, Thomas explained helpfully. Ms. Carter owns 17 luxury venues across the state. This is our crown jewel, though. We're projecting $43 million in revenue this year alone. Jennifer made a small choking sound. I looked at the contracts. The South Wing expansion looks good, Thomas. I'll sign these in your office. Give me 5 minutes. Certainly, Ms. Carter. Whenever you're ready. He nodded politely and stepped away. The silence stretched like taffy. Victoria found her voice first. You own this building? And 16 others, I confirmed. The Riverside Manor downtown, the Ashworth Estate in the wine country, the Belmont Center. That's where Marcus's company held their annual gala last year, actually. Marcus's face went red. That was you. My company, yes. But... Victoria sputtered. You live in a studio apartment. A penthouse studio, I clarified. In the building I own downtown. It's 2,400 square feet. I like the open floor plan. The Honda is paid off and reliable. Why would I need something else? Aunt Patricia materialized beside us, her Botox-smoothed forehead trying to furrow. Olivia, dear, is this some kind of joke? No joke. Would you like to see the contracts? How? Victoria's voice rose, drawing attention from nearby tables. How could you possibly own? I bought this property for $8.4 million 7 years ago. It was undervalued and poorly managed. I renovated it, repositioned the brand, and tripled its revenue in 3 years. I used those returns to acquire the next property, then the next. I kept my voice level factual. It's called real estate investment and hospitality management. But you never said anything. Mom had joined us now, Dad trailing behind. You never asked, I pointed out. You assumed I was failing because I didn't have a corporate job or a flashy car. I let you assume. Dad's face was red. The speeches. Good Lord, Olivia, I just told 200 people you were finding your way. I'm finding my way. I found it 7 years ago, actually. I've just been walking it quietly. Victoria's hands were shaking. The studio apartment comment. I just humiliated myself in front of everyone. You humiliated yourself, I agreed. I was just drinking champagne. Thomas reappeared looking apologetic. Miss Carter, I'm sorry, but the engineers are on the phone. They need to know about the rooftop terrace specifications. Of course. I turned back to my family. Excuse me. Business calls. I followed Thomas toward his office, leaving my sister standing frozen in her Valentino gown. In the office, I signed the renovation contracts while Thomas hovered nervously. I'm so sorry, Miss Carter. I had no idea your family didn't know about your ownership. That was incredibly awkward. Not your fault, Thomas. They made assumptions. I let them. Still, the timing was perfect, actually. I signed the final page. The permits will clear by Monday? Absolutely. The expansion will add 8,000 square feet of premium event space. We're already booking into next year. Excellent. And Thomas? Tonight's event? Complimentary. Charge it to my personal account as a birthday gift for my mother. His eyes widened. The entire party? But that's $85,000. I'm aware. Consider it done. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. When I returned to the ballroom, the atmosphere had shifted. Guests whispered behind champagne flutes. My family stood in a tight cluster near the head table, clearly arguing in furious whispers. I walked over calmly. Can't just hide something like this. Victoria was saying. I didn't hide anything. I lived my life. You narrated your own version of it. Mom looked like she might cry. Olivia, sweetheart, why didn't you tell us? Tell you what, Mom? That I was successful? You made it clear you measured success by corporate titles and luxury cars. I had neither, so I failed your test. It didn't occur to you that I might have different goals. But owning buildings, that's huge. So is being Senior Vice President of Acquisitions, I said, looking at Victoria. I never diminished your achievements. You worked hard, climbed the ladder, earned that promotion. I'm genuinely proud of you. Victoria's lip trembled. Then why didn't you? Because you never asked about my life. You told me about yours, made assumptions about mine, and moved on. Every family dinner, every holiday, every phone call. I listened. That was our dynamic. Dad cleared his throat. The speech is tonight. Olivia, I'm mortified. Don't be. You said I was finding my way. Technically true. I find new properties to acquire every quarter. Uncle Richard pushed his way into the circle. So when I offered to help you lease a decent car, I own a fleet of luxury vehicles for executive transport at my venues. I just prefer my Honda. Jennifer looked like she'd bitten into something sour. And the job offers were genuinely kind. Unnecessary but kind. Marcus had gone very quiet. Victoria noticed. What? She demanded. He swallowed hard. The Belmont Center. Our annual gala cost the company $120,000. So, Olivia's company, if she owns it. His face went pale. The Morrison financial deal last month. The acquisition we celebrated. The property we bought for the new headquarters. Victoria's eyes widened. No. The Riverside Complex, Marcus whispered. We paid $34 million for it. I stayed silent. Did we buy that from you? Victoria's voice was barely audible. Your firm bought it from Carter Hospitality Group. Yes. We'd held it for 4 years. Excellent return on investment. Victoria sat down heavily in the nearest chair. You sold us a building. Your firm made a smart purchase. The location is prime, the structure is solid, and my team negotiated fairly. You'll do well there. How much did you make on that sale? Dad asked quietly. The property appreciated nicely. After renovation costs and holding expenses, about $18 million profit. The number hung in the air like smoke. Mom reached for a chair. $18 million. On one property, yes. The portfolio overall has done better. How much better? Uncle Richard demanded. I hesitated. This was the line I'd never wanted to cross. The moment when the numbers became real and relationships became complicated. But they'd asked. The Carter Hospitality Group is currently valued at $127 million. My personal net worth, including properties, investments, and liquid assets, is approximately $89 million. Victoria made a sound like air leaving a balloon. Jennifer's champagne glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the marble floor. 89 million, Dad repeated numbly. As of last quarter's assessment. The Singapore deal that closed tonight will add another $47 million over the next 3 years. Uncle Richard actually laughed. A broken, disbelieving sound. And you drive a Honda Civic. It's a good car. And live in a studio apartment. With incredible city views. Mom was crying now, quiet tears running down her face. Baby, why? Why let us think? Because you were happy, I said simply. Victoria was the success story. The Harvard MBA, the corporate climber, the daughter you could brag about. That made you proud. I was fine being the quiet one, the one finding her way. It didn't hurt me. But we hurt you, Mom whispered. The speeches, the comments. Were sometimes annoying, I admitted. But not devastating. I knew who I was. I knew what I'd built. Your opinions didn't change those facts. Victoria looked up, mascara smudged beneath her eyes. I called you mediocre. In front of everyone. You did. I told you to get a real job. Also true. And I bragged about my promotion while you own 17 buildings and have a net worth that's... She did quick math. That's about 70 times my annual salary. Your promotion is still impressive. Vic, corporate success and entrepreneurial success aren't comparable. Different paths, different challenges. She laughed bitterly. You're being generous. I'm a VP at a financial firm. You're a multimillionaire real estate mogul. Who still can't get our father to approve of her career choices, apparently. Dad flinched. Olivia. It's okay, Dad. Really. I stopped needing your approval around year 3 when the second property deal closed and I realized I was good at this. I love what I do. I'm successful by my own metrics. That's enough. Thomas appeared at my elbow again, this time holding a bottle of Dom Perignon. Compliments of the house, Miss Carter. For your mother's table. Thank you, Thomas. He set the bottle down and whispered, there are several guests asking about venue availability for their events. Should I direct them to corporate booking? Please do. And Thomas? Let's schedule that expansion meeting for Tuesday morning. I want to review the timeline. Yes, ma'am. He departed with a slight bow. The family stared at me. You really are the boss, Jennifer breathed. Of my own company, yes. That's generally how ownership works. Victoria stood up slowly. She smoothed her Valentino gown and walked over to me. For a moment I thought she might yell. Instead she hugged me. I'm sorry, she whispered against my shoulder. For all of it. The comments, the assumptions, the cruelty. You didn't deserve that. I hugged her back. Apology accepted. When she pulled away she was crying too. And I'm proud of you. Seriously proud. What you built, it's incredible. Thanks, Vic. Mom joined the hug, then Dad, then suddenly half the family was in this awkward group embrace near the dessert table while 200 guests pretended not to stare. When we finally separated, Uncle Richard cleared his throat. So, about those job offers I made. Still appreciated, I assured him. And the car lease suggestion. Very kind. I feel like an idiot. Don't. You were trying to help family. That's admirable. Marcus stepped forward hesitantly. The Riverside Complex deal. Was that? Did you give us a discount because of Victoria? I gave you fair market value because your firm made a solid offer. Victoria had nothing to do with it. Business is business. But you knew we were buying it. I knew Morrison Financial was the buyer, yes. I didn't negotiate personally. My team handled it. I paused. Though I did ensure the conference rooms had the upgraded sound systems your acoustics consultant requested. That was a personal touch. Victoria laughed through her tears. You gave my husband's company better speakers. Good speakers make for productive meetings. The party was winding down. Guests collected coats and called cars. My family lingered near the entrance, unsure how to navigate this new reality. Mom hugged me one more time. Sunday dinner. At our house. Please come. I always come to Sunday dinner. I know, but I want to hear about your work. Really hear about it. Not just assume things. I'd like that. Dad shook my hand awkwardly, then pulled me into a hug. I'm sorry about the speech. I know, Dad. And I'm proud. Even if I'm terrible at showing it. I know that too. Victoria walked me to the valet station. The attendant brought around my Honda Civic. Clean, reliable 7 years old. This is really your car, Victoria said. Really mine. You could afford any car in the world. I could. But this one runs perfectly well. She laughed and shook her head. You're insane. Maybe. Or maybe I just know the difference between wealth and worth. That's annoyingly wise. I have my moments. The valet held my door open. Before I got in, Victoria grabbed my arm. Next week, lunch. Just us. And you tell me everything. How you started, how you grew it, all of it. I want to know my sister. I'd love that. And Liv. Thank you. For what? For being gracious. For not throwing tonight back in my face when you had every right to. For being better than me. You're not bad, Vic. You're just learning. We all are. I drove home to my studio apartment. The 2,400 square foot penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. My city in a way. 17 buildings scattered across it, each one a piece of the empire I'd built quietly, carefully, without fanfare or family approval. My phone buzzed with messages. James confirming the Singapore deal details. Thomas thanking me for the party comp. My accountant sending preliminary Q4 numbers. And one from Victoria. Asterisk lunch Wednesday. Don't dress down on my account. I want to see the real you. Asterisk. I smiled and typed back. Asterisk Wednesday works. Fair warning, the real me still wears jeans. Asterisk. Even jeans that cost $89 million, she replied. Especially those. I poured myself a glass of wine and stood at the window, looking out at the glittering skyline. Somewhere out there, my mother was probably telling party guests the truth about her daughter. My father was rethinking his speech. My sister was recalibrating her understanding of success. And I was exactly where I'd always been, building, growing, succeeding on my own terms. Just not quite so quietly anymore. The Grand Meridian's lights glowed in the distance, my flagship property hosting its last guests of the evening. Tomorrow Thomas would meet with the engineers. The expansion would begin. The business would grow. But tonight I was just Olivia Carter, the girl who lived in a studio apartment and drove a Honda Civic. And owned $127 million worth of real estate. It was kind of funny when you thought about it. I raised my glass to the skyline and smiled.